we go. Hey, welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen and get rolling here in just a moment. I want you to welcome to our Bytespeed VR and Empathy Day. Each month, we on a Wednesday at the same time, we jump into different topics along virtual reality, and so much is changing every month. Let me just introduce myself just real quickly. I'm Professor Corinne Hosington. I am at a college in Virginia, but very early on, I got really interested in VR and realized that people not only need to understand the apps, but understand the hardware. So I kind of shopped around for what I thought was the best one working with it and who was really the right hand of HTC and Oculus and all those companies, and landed, of course, with Bytespeed because they really take care of people, 5-year warranty, and they offer training and monthly webinars and all this type of thing. So it's more than just, selling something and running. So we welcome everyone. Real quick, I want to also, let me see here, good too. We want to welcome you, Tori. Do you mind sharing where you're from today, Tori? Or you can just watch.
My apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm on a mobile device.
You're great.
I'm from Spencer, Iowa.
Okay, we've got California, we've got North Dakota, and we have Iowa, and of course, I'm in Virginia. Hey, let's get started and show you around all the great here. So, first of all, we keep a running list of what we consider the best apps in education. And if we're missing something, let us know. Right now, we're in a situation that there's over 10,000 really good VR apps in education. And we've tried to curate it down to a lowly few hundred just to get started with. But we're always expanding this list. So bytespeed.com/VR apps, totally open, totally free. So look through that so you can kind of see what's out there. But let's talk about social and emotional learning real quickly. We now see VR in over 500 high schools, about 400 middle schools, and just a few hundred elementaries. We now see it over a few thousand colleges and universities. So this is really getting excited. And today's focus is about social and emotional learning. We want to make sure that VR not only teaches science and history and math and all those great topics, but also helps students develop their speaking skills, their emotional skills, their happy place. So I wanted to start with an app. I am a teacher. I'm not representing any company as far as apps. Please understand, these are the apps that I really like to work with. I'll mention price or if they're free as we go along, just to get a good feedback here. And if you've used one of these apps, please feel free to chime in. So one of my favorites is called Guided Meditation VR. It's $14.99. That's per device. And so let me kind of share with you, but as we walk through this one quickly, I want you to kind of get your little social and emotional zen on as well. So now the student puts on
Take a deep, healing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Everybody breathing with me? So this app allows you to pick over 1,000 different locations, various music, time limits. And what we're doing with it is when we have high-stake testing at the different schools, we allow the students to come early to get their zen on, but we're also using it for students who had a wee bit of a meltdown. We have it in our guidance department at our local high schools, elementary and middle, that if the student's really having a rough day, maybe on the spectrum, any of these reasons, they can take a good 10-minute, relax. And with everything happening in COVID, once we wipe these down and get them clean, like we mentioned in our last recorded, how to do all of that, we feel that this gets the student right back on track. So I love things like guided meditation, but I have so many more to share, so on we go. We're also seeing now in this space that there are a lot of companies like Victory XR. If you haven't ever been evolved with Victory XR. They now allow you to pick your avatar when you get in the headset. So you can be anyone, any height, any color. You can even be cartoon based. And then they take you all over the world through different experiences. One of their experiences was World VR Day. Let's listen in. So with World VR Day, you put your headset on.
Virtual reality, because we lose ourselves to find ourselves. Experience so, and right now we can feel like kids as we are floating in space. We've kind of lost our contact with the floor, but you can feel that kind of levitation. Just watch.
So every student in your class, if they have a headset, would go through the different experiences that they also do. They go to the moon, they do science, they do history, they go back in time.
Maybe it's a quality of the light, maybe it's a detail of something in the environment, maybe it's something you want to look at and appreciate more deeply. And that's also a mindful.
Any questions about this kind of experience where the student gets to be in the environment? By the way, when they speak without any special microphones, you're able to hear them. They can ask questions. What do you guys think of this? You can talk. Just want to watch. That's okay. Does anybody want to comment? Okay, I'll move on. Hey, next. With all of these new realms and so forth, I want to show you another app. It's free. I'll talk about the Victory XR, how it comes in a package in a moment, but I'm going to skip past that for a second. There's an app that was created by Stanford University. And what they were trying to do, especially in this era of COVID, is there's been a lot of stress on people. A lot of people have lost their homes. There's been evictions. It's been tough. And so they wanted students not to bully each other and, you know, put yourself in someone else's shoes. So when the app begins, I'm going to play it with just a little bit of sound here. When the app begins, I want you to look around and see if you can get context of what's happening.
Welcome back to KFM 98.2.
I'll stop there. What are you guys seeing? Do you mind miking out, speaking with me? What do you see?
The eviction notice, notes with red, some artwork in the left corner.
Yeah, what do you think that plate means with just a little bit of food?
Either just finished eating or he's doesn't do his dishes regularly.
Yeah, or maybe running out of food. Yeah, and by the way, you get to pick your hands. We call it third person VR, where if you pick your skin color, it feels like you're in the space and your controllers, your hands are moving about. So what this app does is take you through, you know, everything is starting to go bad in your world. They've laid off everybody in your neighborhood, at the local plant. You're starting to sell some of your last items to maybe make one more month's rent. After a while, you get evicted and you move into your car. Let's see how this goes. Well, you're not allowed to live in your car, especially if it's parked in a major city. They're going to tow your car. And after a while, the only place left, if you're in a city, is possibly to get on public, you know, buses or public metros.
Your backpack moves away. Drag it back by selecting it and holding the trigger button down. Remember, you have to both look at it and select it in order for the bag to return to you.
So do you think everyone's nice to you in this environment? No, this guy is definitely going to go after you and bully you and be mean. This app is totally free. But after the 25-minute experience that you would go through in the app, I have to tell you, I had I help out at our high school, and we put the quarterback. He is of light complexion. He's the rich kid. And he is actually can kind of be a little mean to kids. At the end of this, I saw tears coming out from under the VR headset. And I even went up to him and I said, "Are you okay?" And I kind of referenced the tears. And he said, "I'm just hot." He said, "But I had no idea how this feels." And I think it's a game changer for a lot of students to kind of be in this empathetic situation. And with a free app, it's definitely worth downloading. It is in the Steam store. It's called Becoming Homeless. But we're seeing VR empathy go well beyond this one. This one is going to teach you and your students about respectful conversations. We often call them soft skills. And especially when we encounter someone that is not exactly like us, sometimes students feel uneasy or people feel uneasy. So let's listen into this one. This is
Respectful
by
Conversations,
Equal Reality.
a VR training experience that is revolutionizing the delivery of soft skill education. Instead of imagining what it's like to be discriminated against, you experience it firsthand. Once you've seen what it feels like, you then get to practice interrupting that same scenario as a bystander. Not only is VR an extremely effective method of training, it has the scale of e-learning modules. We ran 161 employees from 4 different locations through our training. Our survey results from the event were overwhelmingly positive.
Now, this particular one's being used in business, but when a lot of schools have emailed them, they've shared freely. So possibly one, again, I'm showing most of these from YouTube and we're recording today. If you miss anything, or I can get you that information a little later as well. What else is out there in this equity realm and so forth as we move through? Well, a lot of it we're also using for teachers. I was walking through an elementary school and my side eye caught a teacher in a classroom. What I found out would be later would be a student on the spectrum. And she was not very, she was a little new. And she was walking up to that student doing this. Pay attention. And I just kind of cringed. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I wish she could have seen some of the YouTubes that you can walk through in 360 that show an experience in autism, and these are totally free. Let's listen in.
Just wait there 1 minute, I'm just gonna get a ticket, okay?
Now, what you are is you are the person on the spectrum in a big mall, and this is how you hear and see things around you. Do you get the point? You know, until we walk in someone's shoes, this really makes me think of how we can understand things a little differently. What else could this do? We're now starting to see that not only can VR help us understand the spectrum, but it can help students. There's a company out there that is working with special ed classrooms throughout. That is called Florio, and what they're doing is making VR apps. Well, let's see what's happening here.
I think for this class, you're going to be in the Lego room.
Hi, have a seat.
This is how they started out. They're now making more high-end VR.
So many of my students tell me that their mind is so disconnected from their body that they wish they could leave their body behind. In the world of virtual reality, suddenly you have a child who feels empowered, who feels that they have some control over their world. That's
what we have found in the spectrum is one of the hardest things that they face is the lack of focus. There's too much things going on around you. So with VR, what we're now seeing is they can fully focus because they can only hear and see what's placed directly in front of them. Even things like free that are Google VR Maps that's out there.
I'll take it.
Now,
Thank you. Great work, Max.
they can get in and let me show you how
Tools could help kids like Max build skills like joint attention.
Okay, so Max, how are you feeling today? Okay, so you're gonna put this.
So we know from these early studies that they can really focus. One of the coolest things is something like Google VR Maps, which of course is free, but they love being able to control where they go, where they zoom into. So there's just so much that they can control where usually that's so hard. So let's take a moment just to kind of look out there. What is the hottest thing in VR as far as solutions right now? Well, if I had to pick my own, and everybody's different, there's not a wrong answer in this, but since you're coming to my webinar, my favorite right now is called the HTC Vive Cosmos. So this doesn't have to have the base stations, it's all inside. You can make it wireless or make it wired. It does connect to a high-end computer that's running these exceptionally high-end experiences. Right now, this machine is rated as the highest experience out there right now. So it has the highest DPI. You're seeing the best way to see this. We're now seeing it, for example, you could have it standalone without the cart, but at Bytespeed, they've created this really lightweight cart. So now it has the larger monitor, or you could just extend it to the larger screen that you probably already have in the front of the classroom. You have any of the headsets, maybe like the HTC Vive Cosmos, the high-end gaming computer, which is VR ready for any of these high-end apps. But that's not the only high-end thing that you have to have. Another idea is what I call more mid-space. This is a mobile solution, and I'm really excited about it, and let me explain why. Bytespeed has actually partnered now with Vive and Victory XR to offer a custom bundle. Well, let me explain. What this can do is either side load the apps. So the apps are here or on the memory card up at the top. This is a Vive Focus Plus, or they can be streamed from a computer machine without any cords. It has about a 3-hour battery life. Its price point is, it usually runs $799 because it's a little higher end than most of the other ones. But for $999, you get 50 different Victory XR apps. And that's the one that we showed where you become the human, downloadable, that you're in those different spaces with Victory XR. Usually that bundle by itself is $500 or $600 a year, but it's only $200 a year with the purchases together. So that's kind of cool. I really like that headset as well. Before we look at others, let me show you some other empathy VR experiences. This is another one from YouTube. You know, dementia probably scares every one of us. We probably all know someone who was so brilliant and cognitive, and then that kind of slips. Well, to make us understand and to be empathetic, this particular experience walks through a grocery store, and you have a list.
Bread, was it?
You need to get tea, sugar,
I can't make out.
That's all you need to get. Well, I'll lower the volume here. As you walk around, it's hard to
Where's
remember
Joe?
that.
Oh, it will come to me when I see things.
They were trying to remember tea, but there was a lot of tea. It was just overwhelming, even paying for it. It's that entire experience. It's called A Walk Through Dementia, free, of course, on YouTube to do that experience. Let's keep going because there's just so many different experiences. There's even migraine and different illness experiences. You know, we hear a lot of people say, oh, I had a bad migraine yesterday. Well, if you don't experience them, you're thinking, oh, it's kind of like the headache I get once every year. Well, migraines are very different than that. And for example, let's say someone planned for you to have a surprise party. Well, all that noise on your migraine day is quite overwhelming. So there's experiences like that. There's even experiences where they put one of your loved ones in the migraine experience to understand how you felt. Let's listen in.
Volunteer to experience my migraine through my eyes.
So this is by Excedrin.
It's heartbreaking to see her in so much pain, and I've literally seen her get tears.
I wish I could take it on for you. I do. You know I do.
A migraine isn't just a bad headache. So using virtual reality, we've worked with each sufferer to mirror exactly what they usually go through.
They usually start with crazy blinking lights, floating spots.
Everything gets blurry in just one eye.
That's exactly what it looks like.
And challenged our volunteers to take on their migraine in a regular day.
You never know when a migraine's going to come on.
I've noticed that I'm losing vision.
The worst part is feeling off kilter. Any sort of bright light will make me feel like the room is spinning.
I start to see little dots, pops of light here and there.
The second that the auras start, everything else stops.
Oh, this is so crazy. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh. By the way, no one made it more than a minute in this particular experiment because it was just so bad. But which is interesting is in real life, if you have a migraine, you can't exactly take off the headset like they did. So we're seeing a lot of these. I want to show you another one that is actually free. It's called a 1,000 cut journey. This was actually presented at the Tribeca Film Festival last year. It was on the topic of racism, but I first need to explain. What they did was take people of color and put a hidden camera on their body. So as they walked around shopping or driving or getting pulled over by police, the recording was being captured. They didn't ask to be, no one knew it was being recorded except the person of color. And then they took that footage and reenacted it in VR. Let's take a look.
So the idea of a 1,000 cut journey is this notion that there are small and big things that happen all the time in a given life that create damage, that can have a negative impact on one's well-being, one's health. And so we sought to create an experience that would represent at least just a sliver of what some of that is from the perspective of a Black male named Michael Sterling. I wanted people to be able to walk in someone else's shoes, and virtual reality sounded like a way for people to do that. And using VR gave us an opportunity to think not just about very blatant things that someone may yell or say or do to you in this very explicit sense, but also ways that we can represent a mother's worry about whether you'll have a negative encounter with the police on the street, the types of content that you might observe on the news just in the background in a scene where you're seeing a news alert about an unarmed teen being killed by a police officer. So we really sought to try and capture both in-your-face type of experiences, but also subtleties and nuances that maybe not everyone picks up.
This was also by Stanford University.
The work that we have done really looks to differentiate the effects of experiences in virtual reality versus other types of media. And so we not only create these experiences, but we also run rigorous academic studies to look at the impact of these experiences on people's attitudes and behaviors for others. And what we're looking at is trying to see, like, is VR a more powerful tool than other types of media? And typically the answer to that question we found has been yes. Something that we study in the lab is called embodiment, and how in virtual reality you're able to take the first person perspective of another person. So you can look down at your body and see that you're a different race or a different gender. And so what we find is that this sense of embodiment really lends itself to how much immersion you feel in the experience, and that we can induce something called body transfer. And this is the psychological feeling that you've become someone else.
So when I tried this app, I went into a retail store, like a Macy's, and I was noticing that the staff was following me around and they weren't following anyone else around. except for the person of color. So there's just so many different subtle and not so subtle things that really do happen.
The mirror.
They're also now using this. This is from a company called Limbix. This one is not retail, but I did want to show you. They're coming up with a lot of apps to break down your fear. This gentleman on my screen right here has a fear of heights, but he works as a television producer, and you never know where the story is going to be. So let's pick up there.
I couldn't refuse. I mean, it's my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of hard to explain, but I have a fear of heights. I feel like it's not like a normal fear of heights. I'm worried that I will jump off of things, basically, is what happens.
Regardless of whether or not it's fear of heights or, a form of OCD, the good news is that this sort of issue is one of the most effectively treatable conditions, not just.
So what they do in a lot of the apps that are now out there is put you in some of those situations, like you are, standing on a bridge, or you're doing something that would really kind of usually make you terrified. Let's see.
Now it's a good place to start.
Welcome to Limbix VR. Take a moment to adjust your headset, get comfortable, and prepare for therapy.
Like this driving scenario with variable intensity and danger. The idea is that if someone's afraid of something, the best way to treat them is to gradually expose them to it. And over time, their fear will get less intense, or even go away.
What other kind of environments do you have that you've already put together?
So public speaking is obviously a really...
So all different types. I have to tell you my personal fear. I hate sharing it, but it's true. I'm terrified of really tight places, especially like an MRI machine. So they're in Steam. If you just type in MRI machine, there's a lot of new free experiences to help you through that. And honestly, I have gone through quite a few now. I haven't needed an MRI lately, but I'm hoping it's really going to help me. I'll have to let you know if it did. But the first time I used it, I was in a hot sweat. But the second and third time, I'm getting where I'm not so stressed out. So it must be working for me. And what we're now seeing is there's a lot of these facing your fears demos that are out there. For example, let's listen in.
Okay, this game can cause anxiety. Well, that's great. I don't have any of that.
Oh, whoa. I'm in, whoa. Ah! Whose hands are these? These are like white people hands. It makes me nervous.
Whoa. Huh. Are those my hands?
This office is nice, though. It's like, oh, a little fax machine.
Hold both control buttons. Here we go. Oh, cool. Right off the bat. Bees.
This isn't bad, though, because there's only like a few. We're friends. I'd like to think I'm like a friend of the animals.
Oh, woo! Oh my god! There are bugs flying all around me. Okay. Oh, this is awful. Why is this a thing?
Someone should really call maintenance, though, because there are a lot of bees in here.
So all kinds of fears, to say the least. And I want to share with you, I had the opportunity to go to Tokyo before all of this, and I actually went to Hiroshima. If you remember throughout our history, in World War II, one of the bombs was dropped in Hiroshima that we nuclear bombed them. And I have to tell you, all I knew about it is a certain date. I know Hiroshima wasn't the original city that we had planned to bomb, but because of weather, we changed our minds and did it there. What we've never been told as Americans is Hiroshima is where children mostly come in from the countryside to go to school. So it was mostly small children's schools. So many years later, in fact, last year, there is a high school in Hiroshima called Fukuyama, and they also just experienced, remember the nuclear reactor went off in Fukuyama. So they created a video in VR that they're sharing with the world of that moment in history, so we won't repeat it again. Let's listen. The students actually, it killed 140,000 people just in Hiroshima. There was more in Nagasaki. And what they did was they looked through historical drawings before and recreated the buildings that were on.
最初に作っていた被爆前の建物が被爆後になってなくなっている資料を何枚も見るんですね。でやはりそこで改めて、原爆の怖さ。
And their mission is that, hopefully we never have to go through this. Now, I won't get into the discussion was whether the bomb was needed or not, but at the end of the day, let's hope there's more peace than this. So lastly, and then we'll open it up. And if you have questions, I can show you tons of other apps. We're now seeing empathy used even in VR in nursing homes and patients who've lost their memories. What we're now seeing is they'll go in with a 360 cam and record their home before it's sold and so forth, a family member will. And then when they're in the nursing home or facility or even with a relative, here is their experience. They use Google Earth. They'll record their homes and walk through them, what they used to look like. And you would think it would make them sad, but the honest to goodness truth is
memory is
often
often locked deep inside their brains that they can't access. And one way to access those memories is through what we call reminiscence therapy. And reminiscence therapy, in a nutshell, is really just sitting with someone and looking at, say, images of their past, wedding photos, or images from when their children were born. And those things can spark memories that are sort of dug into the brain. And it can be very, very powerful for people to see those images and then experience.
So to me, I love that we're kind of reinventing this world around us and how things are changing. Well, before I show you the final video, let me open it up for Q&A, and I'm happy to show other types of apps, different types of equipment, anything that you might have for questions. Go open it up. First of all, did you guys pick up some new information, Lori, Michael, and Tori?
I'll jump in real quick. This is Mike. I like that you've got some of the curated apps. What I would love to see is some of the curated YouTube experiences, because that's one of the things we're starting to look at. We've actually bought some 3D cameras where we can start creating our own experiences. I know there's stuff out there, but finding it all, so finding some of those curated experiences. Where, yes, I know you can't control where you walk around.
But there's a lot there.
Yes, there's a lot there. And one of the examples my boss uses, he chaperoned a whale watching trip one time. So they'd gone down, and before they even got on the boat, before they even got to the whale watching, when they were just standing at the water's edge, there's a student who was just staring at the water, lapping in and out. And he walked up and was like, "What's up?" And he said, "Does it always do that?" He said, "Does what always do that?" He goes, "Does the water always go in and out like that?" He'd never been to the ocean. So little things like that a lot of times you take for granted, realizing, that, especially our lower income students may not necessarily have access to. So finding things like that.
Like those experiences. Let me start there because, first of all, I want you to know there's 94 million and counting 360 VR experiences at YouTube. So that's exciting. The best way to find them is, first of all, there are groups. For example, if you just type in 360 videos in teaching, you will see entire groups of classroom. You can kind of get these different groups, but let me show you how I teach my teachers to do it. So let's say today I am covering something in history. If I just type in any topic, I'm just going to be real general to get started. History 360. Include the topic and then the number 360. And for example, one of the best ones that's out there, but of course not for younger students, is, for example, is something like a letter from the trenches from the Civil War. Here you put on the headset. Oh, they're going to make me answer a question here real quick. Okay. Okay. And this now goes into the
Dearest mother,
trenches.
today I'm being called up to the front line.
And you
I'm
can
to serve
look
under General
around
Beauregard
and
to report to
see
Sergeant Layton.
what it was really like in these trenches. Look at this.
I think so.
Attaboy, let's move.
You can have moments like Auschwitz. I have to tell you, I have had the opportunity to actually go to literally Auschwitz, and going inside these, again, not for elementary students, this is the gas chamber that took over 1 million lives. And to walk through it and understand what happened there and be explained, of course, to the right grade level, is unbelievable for empathy as well. But there's other more exciting ones. I'm going to type in Nat Geo. This is my starter kit. Write this down, Nat Geo 360. Nat Geo 360 has a few hundred 360 videos that are all really well explained. For example, let's say I want to go see a volcano erupt, or let's go see that shark encounter since you mentioned something like that in the dam. So now
the whole town changed when jobs came back.
Sorry, I've got to get through the ad.
We're seeing all kinds of.
We can go through these 360 experiences where we can save these links, in onto the desktop, so they just open up. And now we can now go under the water and see what a shark or whatever encounter would be like, and feel like that first person. And here they're 57 miles east of Miami. So we can get all of these. And I have to tell you, when they get close up to these sharks, if you're afraid, you better close your eyes. There's a hammerhead. The students will step back. It's very realistic. And for a lot of our students who are not of means, I asked the high school students that I work with in Lynchburg, Virginia, the other day in a Zoom call, what percentage of them had ever seen the ocean? Do you know, a third of my students who only live 3 hours from a beach, a third of them have never seen any ocean. And it really starts to make sense of understanding, that a lot of students don't have the same opportunity as others. And it's hard for them to understand what they're learning. So I hope that answered the question. Lori?
Definitely was a great starting point. And if there was ever a curated list somewhere, that would be amazing.
Yeah, what I have to say, if there's a VR YouTube group for educators. Let me see if I can find it quickly. That is curated. Educator, I'm trying to think what it was called. VR Education 360. There is a group that I know is in here. So I might have to email that to you once I locate it, but there is a curated group that has all of these. That really helps. But that could be a starting place, and you can see all the 360s in here. What we're doing in Virginia is we've given 360 cameras to every history teacher in our state. They're recording all the local historical parks, a lot of Civil War, and they're all putting that together now. And they're going to create a private channel for all the schools in Virginia, but I hope they share it everywhere. Boy, this is a weird one. I don't think I want to see that. Okay, sorry. Hey, what else is out there? Lori, any thoughts or questions?
I just wasn't sure about one thing you had said. You said the HTC Vibe Cosmos, there was no base stations. What does that mean when you say no base stations?
Yeah, so just 2 or 3 years ago, you would have, I'll show you an old picture. You used to have, let me show an HTC Vive with base stations. Let me show you a picture. So the headsets weren't as good just a couple years ago. So when you would set up VR, these two base stations where I'm pointing were put up 6 to 7 feet up in the room, about 12 feet apart like this.
We're just seeing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's awful. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do this in class too, sadly. Here we go. See this base station up here? It's on a tripod, usually about 7 feet up. This used to be what came with every headset. But now the HTC Vive Cosmos and some of the newer ones. So in other words, if you have equipment that's a year or two old, you might have these type base stations. Now you don't need them. So it's easier to move it from classroom to classroom is the point. Is that
They were basically the infrared sensors. You'd have to set them up around the room. Now they've moved the sensors on the headset, so you don't have to mount them in a room.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So like one of them we have like that.
If you've been in this a while, you'll be glad to know you don't have to set these up anymore. Yay.
Okay.
So thank you. Yeah, any other questions? These are good. Tori? I know you're on a phone. If you wanted to talk. Hey, any other questions, guys, before we close? We've recorded today, so you can watch any of this over again. But if I can help you along the way, I do want to mention one other item. In the last couple weeks, a lot of you know that there are a lot of grants available right now because of COVID and the CARES Acts from the different presidents. Well, there is a new one that's out that is used for remote learning and face-to-face learning that you can use for virtual reality. It's called the DOTS grant. I'm going to put my email in the chat right here. So copy this down. I'm going to put it under the chat here. And what you could do, I'll be happy to share this. I've written the whole grant because I used it at my school and we were given the money. So if you have any interest in me helping you with the grant for free, obviously no strings attached, I would be happy to send you the grant. And this is for $50,000 per school. You could write it for 4 or 5 schools and get like 250. We wrote it for 300,000. And what we got was VR headsets, both the bigger ones, the high end and the mid end with the Focus Plus, that we would send home as some of our science classes and other classes during remote learning, but you could keep them face-to-face as well. So we already have this grant written. It's a federal grant. If you're any kind of school, you're welcome to it. So I wanted to share that. And this is how a lot of schools, this is due on June the 4th, but I've got it pretty much written. So you wouldn't have to do very much, of course, customize it for your school. So if you would like that, let me know. I hope that would be helpful.
That looks awesome.
We also provide training. So I fly around and I also do it virtually, really helping teachers understanding how to get going, all day workshops where teachers can stop by or stay with us all day. So if you've ever liked something like that, I do these in about 50 cities a year worldwide. I was right before break in London and in South Africa even. So be happy to do that with Bytespeed and so forth. Any other questions? Does that help? Well, I'll stop the recording. And if you guys, you now know my email, if I can help you in any way or for free, show your faculty or staff any of these topics. We meet every month, but I can do a customized one based on whatever your need. I know that I've worked with you before, Lori, and you know that I will continue to help at any time, correct?
That is awesome. Thank you.
So thank you, guys. I'll stop